skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, 100% reason to remember the name.
RedpoleQ here, and we're going to get started with another one of our talks, whatever you want to call these things. We'll have a name at some point. And anyway, more awesomeness, that's the point. And I'm here with, as usual,
McConnell.
And yeah. All right, so we got a lot of really good questions this time around. So I'm pretty excited about this. Yeah. Are you guys excited?
Always excited to have a talk.
Party on. Okay, so here we go. All right, so let's first do a really Asia-specific question. I think this will be especially, in our experience, but I think, you've done a good bit of traveling around too. So the question was how to deal with traveling in different countries in Asia. The girl knows you may be leaving soon, and she won't meet you or have sex with you for that reason. What's the best response? Or is it just down to building comfort? So, this is an interesting. I mean, certainly, I've traveled around a lot, and we've all traveled around a lot. And most recently, you have this, now you're living here in Taiwan, but you have this girl or these girls in Korea, and you're still sort of keeping in touch with them and sort of trying to keep that going.
Yeah.
And recently, one of the guys is he moved back to the States, and he's sort of trying to keep things going with his Korean girl, and so what are some of the things in your experience with that? Has there been a lot of issues with girls not wanting to meet you or have sex with you because they know you're leaving, or do you just not tell them?
So
who are you?
I remember like a couple of years ago, I was with RedpoleQ, and we were talking to one of the guys. And he was like, "Oh, it must be really cool that your life is really cool because you get to just travel all around all the time." And we just both started laughing because and RedpoleQ said, "Oh, well, yeah, but then you like lose all these girls."
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a problem, is that it's very hard to keep momentum going with girls who you're not meeting. So it is really difficult. What I did was I kind of just stopped telling girls that I was leaving, and I just said, look, I'm really busy and I'm working on stuff, which is true. I mean, if I'm like traveling outside of the country, I am busy with other stuff. So, and if I keep telling them that I'm leaving, it's building this kind of this like frame in their head that I'm just not going to be around, which is not really good. So, if I've been with a girl if I'm dating a girl for a long time, then I'll like tell her about my life and she'll like understand that I'm going to be coming back. And when things are quite stable, I don't think it's a problem. But with new girls, I think it's better to just, if you're not going to be gone for a huge chunk of time, then just avoid the topic entirely. And that's what I've done. I don't know if that's actually correct.
Oh, but it actually works.
It seems to work.
So whether it's correct or not, it's what we're okay. So what's your opinion about this?
Yeah, so mine's a little different because you guys tend to go for like maybe 2 weeks to one place, or you'll go somewhere for even a couple of days. But I do year contracts. Right. So I'm not fucking going anywhere. I'm going to be there. But the thing is, they say, well, you're going to leave after this year. That's what all guys do. So what I usually say to them is, yeah, but I'm from Toronto. I have lots of cool friends there. You should come there. You'd love it. You should spend some time with me there. So I think in their experiences, all guys do leave. But some girls do end up going back with these guys, right? So usually that makes the girl more excited. And I've seen them, they'll brag to their friends. Like, yeah, I'm going to go back to Toronto with him one day. Like, whatever it takes. So you can do that as well. Like, what would that be, like vision planting or like?
Yeah, the future projection.
Yeah,
sure. But it's the funny part about it is that it's really you're just gonna stay here and see
them
here.
That's the thing. Part. Yeah, I know.
They're staying with you because they think they're gonna go to Toronto, but you're just saying that to convince them that you're gonna stay here.
But they don't. If you just stay here, it's not very convincing to them, and maybe they want to leave because if I'm like, I'm gonna be here for like years.
Right. Like Nora.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. When I was living in, full time in Korea, I was traveling quite a lot, and I would leave every 2 weeks or so. I would leave, and every time I would come back, I would like have to get a new girl because I lost the girl that I got when I was there last time. Even there was one girl, and I met her. I think we had sex on the 4th date. And, each date, I had like a trip between almost every date. So I would travel, I'd come back, And then we'd have a date. I would travel. I'd come back. We'd have a date. I'd travel, come back, have a date. Travel, come back, have a date. We had sex. Travel, come back, won't meet me. Which, by the way, you know, there's all this discussion out there about people saying that, or girls especially, and then they try and push this frame on guys that if you like wait longer to have sex, that the relationship will go for longer. Total bullshit. I've never, you know, girls that I had sex on the first date and girls that it took 3 or 4 dates, there's no correlation for me with how long they've stuck around based off of that. So, I mean, what about for you guys? Sort of change the topic.
Same. No. There's no. It's not an indicator. You know, the how fast they sleep with you is not really an indicator of how long they're gonna stick around. In my opinion, also.
Yeah, I do think there is a reason they do it.
Because they suck in bed?
No, because sometimes like you'll think like it's just like even like psychological, right? So the guy starts just thinking that like, you know, Eddie Murphy has a great bit on this, right? On his Delirious. Yeah, well, he says like if you don't eat for 2 months and then you get a peanut, that's the best goddamn peanut you've ever had. And so it builds up in your head. And so there's definitely when girls make me wait a little bit longer, I just put more value to it. But as far as how good is a relationship, how long does it last? Yeah, there's no correlation.
Interesting. So you mean you put more value on when they
on her?
I think I just put higher expectations. Like, this shit better be good, and she better not give me any fucking problems after this.
That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I change. So, you know, like, if she starts giving me problems, I'm like, this is bullshit. I put in all this time, and now she's acting like this, and I'm just pissed. Because I'm like, well, I feel like I don't need to put in as much now, because she already knows. Whereas if a girl has sex with me the first date, for example, I'm much more concerned about her and how she feels about it, and I want to, like, make things good with her and make her feel comfortable that she did the right thing and made a great decision. Whereas if she made me wait, I'm like,
there's a really good like skit on the Andre 3000 album, The Love Below. You know, Andre from Outkast, and he did like the scene is like he's in bed with this girl who he slept with on like the first night, and like it's each of their thoughts, like the girl's thoughts and his thoughts, and the girl's like, oh, maybe he just thinks I'm a slut, and then in Andre's head he's like, well, he said, you know, I hope she doesn't think, you know, that I think she's a slut because, you know, he's like, I know that she just was making a good decision, right? Like she was coming home with
Andre 3000.
Yeah, exactly.
She made
right?
a fucking good decision.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's kind of how I think about it. I'm like, well, you know, obviously, if a girl has sex with me very early on, it's a pretty good indicator that I was able to give her a lot of value in the beginning, and she was able to make a good decision early on. Yeah. So I think that as long as that's just my way of thinking about it. And then of course, if girls were like, you know, putting it off, I'm just like, well, this girl doesn't really know how to make it, or maybe she's not like a good girl for me because she's not making this decision, right? You know, and maybe I'm not the right match for her anyway. Right. So it makes me more skeptical about the relationship as a whole if she waits. But in general, you know, in terms of how long girls will stay around, it's really not an indicator, I guess, in my experience.
Any other comments?
No.
Because I thought maybe you were going to elaborate on what you were saying about how you value. So because you were saying that you value the sex more.
No. I just will subconsciously start to put more value on her.
So you will think she's a better girl.
No, probably not a better person, but I'm like, why isn't she not falling for my deceptions, my love? All the other ones have fallen by the wayside. So for her, I'll just start to think like, oh, she's making me wait, or I'll just put stuff in my head like she's got other stuff going on, or she's not that impressed with me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if she's not that impressed with you, doesn't that make you think? Because he was saying that it makes him think that maybe they're not a good match.
I like that.
What do you mean you like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I guess it's like talking on this, like getting the girl to sleep with you the first time. Do we mean just like one night stands or even like dates?
No. I mean,
like,
no. I don't mean one night stands because I don't really do one night stands.
So what would you say? You mean like a day two?
Yeah, I mean, like on the first date, or even the very first time you meet the girl. I mean, you had sex with a girl that you met for the very first time, and you're really excited to see her again.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she seems very happy to meet me too. So it's like, you know, and this has been my experience. You know, usually in most places, it's if a girl sleeps with me on the first night, because again, I'm like RedpoleQ. I mean, I don't really do one night stands if I can avoid them, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've been one night standing.
Yeah, exactly. It's never my fault that the one night stand happened. You know, it's always someone else's fault. So yeah, but I'm just always really excited that girls want to meet me again. You know, the girls, because, you know, if I like the girl, of course I want to see her again, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how I roll too. But you're saying that for you don't necessarily feel that way.
No, I mean, like, I just don't need to. Some girls, I don't need to have sex with them the first time. If they don't have sex with me. The day 2, they don't have sex. I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
And if they, so but I mean, I'll put a time limit on it. If we don't have sex after the 4th or 5th date, I'm not gonna see her again.
Oh yeah.
Right. But if I really like her, then I'm happy to hang out with her.
Up to 5 dates.
4 or 5 days because I really care about her. I want the world for her. Too bad you almost made it, babe. Yeah.
But you know what's interesting? What you were saying just now about how we've been one night standed, but I've never one night stood a girl. And I was thinking about this because it's a common experience for guys when they learn game. And in the beginning, they in their minds, if they have sex with a girl, then it's like that girl's really invested into them because that's their I had this guy, and Illusion was saying, "Oh, you should meet up with this guy. I think he could use some help." Blah blah. So I met up with him. And, we were talking about his issues and all of that. And, and he didn't really seem like he could use some help, but he's one of those guys who doesn't really think that he really needs any help. We know a lot of guys like that. And so when we were breaking it off, I was like, if you want to, if you have other questions or, if you do think you maybe want to work with me, then that's fine. We can set up a date and I can come and we can do your boot camp, or you can sign up for one of the boot camps or whatever. But, if not, no worries. And he's like, every girl I've ever had sex with wanted to be my girlfriend. And I was like, yeah, that used to happen to me too. And then I got to be good with girls, and girls who didn't like me very much started having sex with me. And it's a really common refrain that guys who are, who've been like me, really just nice guys who just wanted to treat girls really well, but didn't get much play because, they didn't know how to do things with girls. They'd have sex with girls, they'd be like, she won't see me again. And I'll be like, oh yeah. And they'll be like, but we had sex.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I know. You've been taught that it's the girls, the girls always want to be with the guy, and it's the guy who's an asshole and doesn't want to see them. But that is not really nearly as common as you think, right? Obviously in my experience, it's always been the girl who didn't, if someone didn't want it to continue, it was always the girl.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but it seems like generally speaking, you like to meet girls multiple times.
Yeah, I'm 23 right now in my head. You mean I like to meet them after sex?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not just... it seems like for the most part, you're happy to see girls.
For more sex. I think you're projecting something that might not be there. Yeah. If there's one that I really like, for sure. And usually the ones that I really like, though, in my experience since I took the course, the ones that I really like don't want to see me again. Like, thanks for the sex. I'm like, oh, the hard truths of game.
Yeah, right, but it's true, right? Because really before you wouldn't have probably, and I mean this for me too, I wouldn't have been able to get those girls out on dates.
For sure.
And I wouldn't have been able to have sex with them.
Yeah.
And, and then now it's like I can get them to have sex with me. And they're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're not making me a reg though.
I was like, that's okay, I see what that was about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I won't be eating there again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The menu looked nice, but,
Yeah. I remember one time I got one night standed. I met this girl, and the same night I brought her home, and we had sex, and then the next morning she was wearing one of my shirts to sleep in, and the next morning she was like, "Oh, can I wear your shirt back home?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And she took my shirt and she left, and I never saw her again. I was so upset. I was like, "You can keep the shirt. It's fine. Just meet me, Really, I can buy another one.
If she was Japanese, she would have asked you that, but she would have wanted the shirt just so she could wash it for you because she felt bad.
Yeah. It didn't get washed and it didn't get returned.
It's like she visited another country. She got a free shirt.
Yeah.
I got the shirt to show us.
Yeah. I hope she's, random girl, if you're out there, I hope you're still wearing that shirt. It was a nice one.
Was it an Affliction shirt? I know that's what you wear. By the way, McConnell does fashion consults. He never wears graphic tees ever. So that's what that is about.
Yeah.
Affliction seems to be the graphic tee of choice among
a lot
people
of guys
who
are on
think
the
that they're
Affliction
stylish.
diet.
The Affliction diet. So wait, how do we before we started talking about that, what was the original discussion that we were on way back when? I opened this discussion with talking about the traveling thing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So with the travel thing, Yeah, it's interesting, I think, because from a Western perspective, there's this whole idea that not being very available works really well, and that when you're not available, that girls will really try harder to see you. And, that has not been my experience in Asia at all. Now, I may have to modify that here for Taiwan, because Taiwan is weird. But, we were out with Ivy. And Ivy is a flight attendant here in Taiwan, and she was saying that she has a hard time dating, and her friends have a hard time dating because as flight attendants they travel a lot, and all the guys think that they just have like boyfriends all over the world. And so she was saying that similarly for us, that because we travel a lot, girls probably think... What was it exactly she said?
Yeah, she said that the girls probably think we're playboys because we travel a lot, and so we must have a lot of girls everywhere. And that's, it's kind of like the same assumption where girls look at rock stars or like, high value guys, like guys with a lot of money, and they're like, oh, he has all these models that are just like constantly swarming him. And in reality, of course, that's not the truth.
Except for Drake.
Except for Drake, yeah.
Exactly.
Right, so it's really strange because, there's a lot of... This is a very common... thing among Asian girls as compared to the West, I think. Where in the West, when they perceive a guy as being very popular with women, then they want to like try and get him because they're like, I know I'm the best.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
it. And he just doesn't realize I'm going to show him, because they see they in their minds or in front of their faces, he has like all these other women. Whereas, in Asia in general, the girls seem to want a much more secure situation. And so if they see a guy who they think of as having a lot of girls, they go, wow, that's not a great situation for me to walk into because I'm not likely to get what I want from that. And and so I see that as being a pretty big difference. So, but ironically, what happens is that because they all think that you're a player and you must have a lot of girls, it then becomes really challenging because they're all thinking the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Isn't there a name for that kind of situation? I can't remember.
Like a biological term or something?
Not a biological term, but like a game theory term or something like this.
Yeah.
Where anyway, I can't remember. Maybe I'll look it up and see if I can find it. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, really trying to minimize the appearance of your traveling, I think helps a lot.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's helped a lot that I actually have a real apartment now. Whereas for 5 years, I didn't actually have an apartment.
Yeah, that really does help.
And so girls are like, when are you coming back? And I'd be like, whenever. Because I really didn't have anywhere in particular to be, so I could just come back. Yeah. And then what would happen? I would go back, and then how available would they be to meet me?
Yeah.
Right? It's really ironic. I remember there was a girl, I met her in Singapore years ago, and she lived in Malaysia, which is probably the first problem. But she was a Malaysian, and I went out with, so I met her, the first time I met her, we had sex the first time I met her, and then she's like, are you going to come to Kuala Lumpur and see me? So I was like, yeah, I'm going to be in a month, I need to travel anyway, and it's cold, so I can come to Kuala Lumpur or whatever, I'll probably be in Thailand, and I could just fly down. And then, so I've been talking with her, and, we're Skyping, we have like Skype sex, and, everything seems really good. And then, I'm like, okay, when should I come this particular week? And she's like, yeah, that should be fine. So I'm like, okay, great. So I like booked my ticket, and like the day after I booked my ticket, she's like, actually, I don't even think it was the day. I think it was like a couple hours after I booked my ticket. She's like, so she's like, can you come next week? Because my period just started. So I was like, okay. And I was like, well, I'll have to throw away the money on this ticket, but it's probably worth it in this case. So I was like, okay. So I go, so the next week I book, and this time I really had to go because my visa in Thailand was going to be up. So I'm like, okay, I'm coming. And then right before I'm coming, she's like, maybe you shouldn't come. There's this guy and things are really complicated. I'm like, wait, a week ago you told me to wait because you were on your period, and now you're telling me there's this other guy. But anyway, I'd already booked my ticket and I had to go, so I just went. And it was so lame. It was really lame. I hung out with her at the mall and her fucking friend, and it was just really lame.
I remember you messaging me about this situation. It was pretty fun. I found it amusing.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I was just like, I just double paid for a flight. And then
there's no sex?
No, there wasn't.
What?
I know. And then I had to do another visa run. So the next time I went, she like stayed with me for like a couple of days.
You went back a second time?
Well, I had to go somewhere anyway, right?
Oh, okay.
So since I had to go somewhere anyway, that was the cheapest option.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, there's the potential. So
That's true.
But it was so ridiculous. And this speaks to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, because there was a lot of questions about girls flaking or girls seeming very interested but then not actually meeting. It is so interesting because guys, when they don't have a lot of dating experience and they only are maybe, most of the girls they hang out with are really just their friends. They're used to girls just kind of being like guys, oh, let's meet. Okay, yeah, sure. And then the girls show up.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But it changes.
Yeah.
So, what is this with like, girls being flaky or, girls sort of seeming like they're really interested and then, not showing up and all of this?
Yeah, it's like, when you like, I know I've said this multiple times to friends, like when I'm texting a girl, I'm like, what the hell is she doing? It's like she doesn't know what she even wants. Well, she doesn't. She doesn't know what she wants. She doesn't know if she wants me. She doesn't know what she's doing. And then, and that really comes through in their decisions, right? Where I just know what I want. I want her. So,
until you tell her 5 minutes later that you want to hang out with your bros.
Oh, what's that?
I want to see you. Really? Where are you? I'm coming. Actually, let's meet another time. I want to hang out with my bros.
I saw that girl on Saturday.
Oh, yeah? Did she slap you?
She didn't have that much makeup on, so I was like, I made a good decision. I stand by that decision. Yeah, I mean, okay, well, there's the other... But usually, most of the time, the girls... Doesn't seem like they know what they want for a while with you.
No, I was going to say that even if this girl had been like, okay, well, can I meet... Tell me when you're on your way home and then I'll come. You'd have been like, okay.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not that you... Yeah, it's just that you really wanted to meet her.
I'm going to get her apartment on Google Maps and I can just start sending it. Sending it out.
Sorry, so what were you saying about...
Yeah,
oh,
so
you were saying with me, it seems like girls don't want me? Is that what you were going to say?
No. Well, I find that that was this particular case. But normally it seems like the girls, even the girls that like I hook up with, they still don't know what they want. If they want to see me or is there another guy, they're not sure. Yeah. It takes a long time for them to like decide that they want you. Is that...
Yeah, I mean, I when I look back, I think that most of the best girls that I got,
right,
it took like months for me to get like the first date.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, or maybe we had a first date soon after, but then the first time we had sex was like months later. That seems to be a pretty common theme in my experience.
Yeah.
And, and I was joking about, especially with Korean girls, I don't think there was a single Korean girl that I had sex with where it happened the way that it should have. Where it was like, okay, let's meet, and the girl showed up. I think every Korean girl who flaked first, right. Or was like, or I thought maybe she would because she showed up like 5 hours late or something. Yeah. So it's really common. And I think that there's some factors are sure she doesn't really know. She's not really. I mean. One of the factors is girls don't know what they want. But oftentimes they also feel like they don't know what you're offering, so they're not sure what they're getting into. I think another factor is, and this, seems, from when I talk to girls, I get the impression that, unlike us, like for us, I mean, I love hanging out with girls. If it's just like, yeah, I'm at the house with the guys, why don't you come over and hang out or whatever, and we can kick it, then that's fine. Or, sorry, we can chill. Gotta use Sean's language with him.
Yeah. Kick it. What would you be kicking? Okay, chill. Yeah, have a chill sesh.
But girls, it seems that hanging out with guys is like a stressful experience for them.
Oh, in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily only in the beginning, but yeah, especially in the beginning. Do you think that too? Do you have that?
Well, I think that. Okay, I don't know about like local, like, Asian girls hanging out with Asian guys. I don't know about that.
Oh, yeah.
Really, but I think for Asian girls hanging out with foreign guys, especially a big group of them, it can be a bit stressful, right? Because it's an environment that many of them are not used to, right? It's a very new environment, and so I think about how you would feel. Like we had it at our apartment. There were like a bunch of local Taiwanese people here on last weekend. There were like, what? How many people were here?
13.
Yeah, I mean, how weird would it have been if you were like the sole foreigner just sitting here hanging out with them? maybe it wouldn't have been stressful, but it would have been strange, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it would have even been strange for people like us who are used to those kinds of situations. And so imagine like these girls who have not been in these groups of foreigners.
Right.
You know?
Well, so I think that one of the reasons why I think that girls. So I agree with that. Very much. It's like this. Yeah, it's a foreign environment and they're not comfortable. But I think they feel the same way even if they would be with local guys. And the reason is because girls are much more concerned about their image. Mm-hmm. They were like, oh, if I'm going to meet these guys, then, maybe I need to dress up or, I need to do my makeup and, and if I don't, and I sort of think that that's part of it. But I also, I get the impression that they feel a lot of need to manage their impression a lot more. And because of that, that's one of the reasons why it's more stressful for them to hang out with guys than it is for us. We're just like, girl is here, sweet.
Yeah.
And I think girls are like, oh, I better, look my best or do my best, or I need to make a good impression, or I want him to like me, or whatever. Something like that.
Well, I think that's a big thing. Like, I know that when I'm with girls, I'm constantly trying to get them out of their head. Mm-hmm. Like, get out of your head, just chill, blah, 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 blah. Because you can tell they're really thinking too much, and they're not like... It's like, do you want to come back to my place and chill? I tried to stop myself from saying that. Fuck you. And they'll be like, I don't know. Right? They're just like all these different things that might come up. So yeah, I think that's totally true.
Yeah, so I think that's and I think another thing is that in general, one of the reasons girls are flaky is because they are emotional, right? I mean, if you're as a guy, right? I'm here in Taiwan, and you guys are here in Taiwan. I mean, if your like mother died, and you're gonna fly back, but you're flying back tomorrow. You could, would you rather, sit in your room alone, or would you rather have a girl come over here and give you amazing sex before you go off?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think every guy's like, yeah, sex, that would be great. That'd make me feel better. Yeah. But like girls are like, my dog died. I'm just gonna stay home. I feel terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. How many of you have gotten canceled on because of sick grandmothers? Moms, dogs, they have to do the laundry.
Everyone's grandma dies like twice a year in Korea. Like, I've scrolled back and seen the girl like twice her grandma was sick. I'm like, what?
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, she's not gonna make it.
But yeah, so I think, as guys, it's pretty difficult for us to understand this because, generally speaking, we don't make plans with our like guy friends and then suddenly be like, oh yeah, sorry dude, I really just don't feel like it, I'm not coming.
Yeah, this is one of the things I really liked about Japan is that if you're scheduled, you're scheduled.
I guess that's pretty true. I mean, compared to Korean girls.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Relative to other places.
And there's definitely, a variation on flakes, right? So Korea, by far, they flake the most. Korean girls are incredibly flaky. And I would say Japanese girls are a fairly close second. But I think there are indicators that she's likely.
Yeah. I think that's the nice thing about Japan is that there's more indicators that she's likely to flake. Yeah. And I just kind of like I feel like Japanese girls are much more organized in their flaking than other countries.
Well, I think it might be that in Korea, if they have, Japanese people are much vaguer about what they're more vague. I don't think you can say vaguer. Can you say vaguer? More vague. Okay, so Japanese are a lot more vague with people about what they're doing with their time. So they can say like, oh, I have yakusoku, or they can say I have uchiawase, and either of those is like, I have a meeting scheduled, and it's unclear what it is, and in general, I think it's sort of rude to follow up by asking like with who or what are you doing, because if they wanted to tell you, they would. So the fact they didn't tell you implies that they don't want you to know, and so they can obscure that they're going off to meet a guy. Whereas in Korean culture communicates more directly, and so if a girl is like, "Oh, I have a yaksok," which is the same word but what they say in Korean, then Koreans would then follow up and ask like, "Oh, with who? Where are you going?" And they'll ask all these questions, and so then the girl kind of can't go out with you anymore because it's like, her oni is an older sister, but it doesn't mean actual sister. It's like in the social hierarchy, she's the older sister. If the oni wants to meet her and she's scheduled with some random guy she met at the club, then she has to cancel on you and hang out with her oni. Whereas I feel like in Japan, they can just say, I have this meeting, and then they can't be pressured to not go because the other person doesn't actually know how important that meeting is. So I think that's one of the reasons. But the other thing is that because Korean girls will seem really keen. They'll be like, all right, great, see you tomorrow. And you'll be like, yeah. And then they'll just disappear, and you won't hear from them maybe for weeks or maybe never again.
Yeah.
But having said that, there are girls who, for example, this year in Taiwan, right, there was a girl that, sort of disappeared on me, and then I got a message from her, and it was, hey, I'm sorry, I was in a car accident, and, and so I was in the hospital, right? So, and I know of at least 2 situations where girls sort of disappeared on me because of car accidents. Now, I mean, obviously I've been, this is in the past, 8 years or something that this has happened. So, there's lots of other girls that, I mean, I don't know, maybe, they had worse things happen. And so there's a lot, where we don't know what's going on in the person's life. And so, why they flake, they may have really legit reasons. And so it thinks it's important where, for not to be upset with them or to assume that, they're, being, bitches to you or treating you or ill-treating you, because we don't really know what's going on in their life. It may be that, a girl tells you something that's like an acceptable excuse, like my grandmother is sick, but really, something really bad happened to her and she doesn't want to tell you.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that a lot of guys have this thing where they like get angry at girls for flaking on them. They get angry at girls for not doing what the guys want them to do, and that's really bad. That's really bad thinking, because you just don't. I mean, you never know what anyone else is thinking or like what's going on. I mean, even with your very close friends, you only know a fraction of their lives. Their real lives, because you don't know what's going on in their head. So I always have this thing where, even if I'm being treated really badly, I always assume that the girls aren't intending to treat me badly. They're doing it for some other reason.
Right.
And I think that's like a good frame to keep in mind, because you never get anything good out of overreacting or like being over there.
I'm like disagreeing. I'm like disagree.
Yeah, I want you to jump in a moment.
Yeah. But my thinking is that you never really get much out of overreacting. Or being like overly emotional with girls, and being angry with them, or being angry with anyone really. I always feel like being angry is just a waste of energy. So anyway, but that's my thinking. Obviously,
let's hear from.
No. I mean, like everything that McConnell said has been. Even those things have been good for me even the past couple of months. Like to think that way, right? To be a little bit more open to that. There's things that I just can't control, right? And to move within them. So yeah.
But what about being angry with girls for?
Oh, okay. Well, before we say that really quickly, just on your last point about their flaking, there's this one New Age speaker. I was looking for his name. I'll try to find it. And
Tolle?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
How did you know that?
Because he's kind of the most well-known.
Oh no! Okay, no, wait, not that guy. Okay, I like that guy. But there's another guy as well. He talks more about money, just how to get money into your life. But he's kind of New Agey about it. But he has this one thing where he says that he talks about money as an energy. I'm not like encouraging this. I'm just saying it's just like
go for it.
So he's talking about money as an energy, and he's saying money like if it's an energy, every energy likes certain things, and he was saying money like speed. So when you have an idea to make money, you need to execute it on it immediately and contact the people that you want to contact, right?
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Well, I think pussy likes speed. So right when I open her and she likes me, I'm going to bounce her somewhere else, or I'm going to be like, I want to see you tomorrow. Like, I need to see her so quickly. Because for me, that energy that I brought into her right away into her life, she's going to forget about that. So like there's also that TV show I used to love watching. It's like called like 48 Hours. It's like after someone commits a murder.
24
after someone commits a murder, like you usually you catch them the first 24 hours, and the next day it goes down by like 80% if you really catch that person. So I really feel like with girls, like the window. Yeah. I'm like, I gotta get her in, gotta like get her.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Totally. I really, and so I also try and meet girls the next day in general. It just generally doesn't.
It's like out. Every day. Yeah. Me neither here. Every day it goes past, like the flake rate just like heightens like crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what were you going to say about the getting angry with girls?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. I haven't really put together my thoughts on how I wanted to present it, but like, I guess we're going to talk about jealousy later. Yeah,
we'll talk about jealousy.
Okay, so just getting angry, how to get angry with girls,
or whether because he's advocating against it. He's like, he doesn't think it's helpful, but
in what way? Like, why to get angry?
Oh,
Like just in general, to keep girls around, or like
for getting whatever results you want.
Right.
And I guess, for some people, the results they want
right.
are very different from the results I want.
Right,
so,
right.
in my experience, every time that I've like gotten overly emotional or angry with a girl or any person even really, it's never been good. So I stopped. I tried to completely stop doing that as much as possible.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. A lot of times I would get angry with girls over flaking. I would just send them like a mean message or something stupid like that. Yeah. And I was like, there, now she knows. And like expecting for her to come back and say something else to me, but in Asia they just don't. All right, fuck you. And they stop replying to you. So yeah. So now I don't get angry anymore, but I do fake anger.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say, that I think so talk about that, because I do think being strategically angry when you don't actually care, but you're like, so can you
So
explain?
I do that, yeah. So very rarely I get angry now with girls anymore. It's just not worth it at all, because I will not get what I want. Mm-hmm. I had to do through 4 or 5 years of trial and error, though. That one took a long time to get. But yeah, fake anger, so like being like, I can't think of an example right now, but like I always pretend like I'm really angry, like if she's really busy. Like I didn't want to see her one night, maybe. And she messaged me, but I said, I couldn't because I was seeing another girl. So then when I see her again, I'm like, why do you message me so last minute? I want to spend time with you. But you always message me last minute. You're too busy. You have too much other stuff going on. Mm-hmm, no, that's not true. I want to see you. Yeah, you say that. All the girls say that. I don't care. Right, I'm just, do you know what I mean? But I still want her to think that I'm a little angry and I'm a little unsatisfied.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think that if you are being sort of implying that I think that's a little bit different from anger. That seems more like
it's more annoying.
Letting them know that you're like upset or dissatisfied.
What would be an example for you if?
Well, I mean, just the other day, right? I mean, that just the other day,
right.
that girl who she was like messaging me all night. She was in a different club, and and so I was like trying to meet up with her, and we ended up meeting in front of the club, and she and then she told me that she was in front of the door, so I go and meet her, and then she says hi to me for 2 seconds, and then walks off with this other guy. Yeah, I mean, well, okay, so first of all, I wasn't really... Okay, so a lot of guys would get really angry about that. All right, and normally I would get really angry... I shouldn't say I would get really angry. Actually, I would get really angry if that girl was ugly. But she's really hot, and then the guy is, like, way better looking than me. So I was like, I'm still in the running. This is awesome. If I get that... I'm going to be really happy because I so totally shouldn't even be able to. So I kind of, I mean, of course I was unhappy about like the way it went down. And I wish I didn't know the guy specifically, because next time if I like do get like let's say I get her back here at the house and I'm like trying to close her and she's like, no, I'm already seeing someone. I'm going to be like, yeah, I know. He's better than you. And I'm like, oh, God. But whereas if I didn't actually see him and she said that, I'd be like, right, sure he is. Sure.
Right. There's no doubt.
What am I going to do? Like, is he more handsome than me? She's like, yes. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right, he was.
Yeah, he's tall and good looking. Bullshit. You saw him, you're like, he is tall and good looking.
Right. So but the thing is that, and I think we were talking about this, is the fact that she's still interacting with me is to say, well, she's either not happy with that guy 100%. I mean, maybe he's just like really boring. Or maybe he's like not smart. Or maybe he's, whatever. But obviously if she's, and this is, I think, really important, right? I mean, a lot of guys would like let that psych them out. But I'm just like, well, here's the deal. She seems interested, so she knows what she wants better than I know what she wants. So, if she's even giving me some attention, then that means I got something that she likes. Yeah. So, let's just keep pushing this. But anyway, so after that incident, because I think that this is more specific for Taiwan especially, but after that happened, the next day I messaged her. I was like, you are so bad. And I wouldn't normally do that. In Japan and Korea, that would almost invariably not work. Yeah. But I think that, in it seems that Taiwanese girls respond a little bit differently. And maybe this might be true in mainland China as well. But, definitely Taiwanese girls seem to respond differently. And she's like, and so she messaged me, oh, I'm so sorry. And, whereas, once again, Japanese and Korean girls, they just wouldn't message you. They just disappear. They would just think you were an asshole. And, but she's like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, yeah, you should take me out to dinner. And she's like, okay. Right? So, it's really, Yeah, it's just so I think that if you're doing it from a strategic perspective, then it can work out because then you can calibrate exactly how you communicate it so that it doesn't really come off as being angry, but you're sort of letting them know that you don't think that behavior is okay and that they should treat you better, but you're not really angry at them because it seems, I think, that when you get angry with people, they can then go, hey, that response was totally out of proportion and you're being unfair. But when you're just sort of lightly sort of saying, hey, then I think it can be okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that being light with it is the best way to do it if you're going to do that, because what you're talking about is being angry so that you can strategically get the kind of response that you want. And when you know that you can get that response in places like, for example, it seems to work in Taiwan. Maybe it might work in this,
Hong Kong, I bet.
Hong Kong, yeah, maybe it work there. But in these places where you think it's going to work, doing that is maybe like a good strategic move. But I think that because you made the point where in Japan, Korea, they just think you're an asshole, and I think that if you're being overly angry, to me that just seems mean.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be mean to people because even if girls are treating you, again, even if they're treating you poorly, they're people too, right? I mean, they're making these decisions for a reason, and whether they understand it or not, right? And you don't want to say something that's gonna hurt them, right? Because ultimately you want to like lead the girls to good relationships with you and like to good experiences, and doing anything that could damage them is like not good, obviously.
Right, and I think that's a key point because it's sort of what kind of relationship dynamic do you want to create with her? So if you are bringing in a lot of negative emotions into the relationship early, then that becomes part of the relationship dynamic where, there's a lot of people who in their relationships that, that's kind of how they work. It's, someone does something, someone does something, or one of the people consistently does something that the other doesn't like, and they oftentimes might just be doing that because they like to see that emotional reaction, because that emotional reaction is what makes them feel that the other person is engaged in the relationship. Whereas if they are doing something and the person doesn't care, they just think, oh, they're not even interested enough in me to be angry.
Yeah.
And that can so that's the way that some people look at these things. But that's not the ideal dynamic. There are other ways to bring in to other dynamics that you can use to let a person know, or to draw attention towards you, or to let the other person know that you need to feel more cared about or more appreciated or whatever it is. Okay, great. So shall we move on to the next question? Yeah. All right. So the next one is about jealousy. Let's do that one.
Yeah. It ties in really well.
Okay, so let's let me read this question. Okay, so the question is about this guy who he is seeing this girl, and he's the guy on the side. So the girl has a boyfriend already. All right, so I'll read the question. I've been having sex with this Chinese girl that has a boyfriend. One of my coworkers teaches this Chinese girl in his class, and he told me that he's going to attempt to have sex with her. So we've got this guy, and he's got a coworker he's sleeping with this girl who has a boyfriend, and then his coworker wants to sleep with this girl too. Sometimes I look at her phone and see him messaging her, the coworker, right? And he doesn't know that I have been sleeping with her for the past 3 months. Sometimes I feel a flash of jealousy and grab her phone to go through the message whenever I see he has messaged her. I don't want this girl to be my girlfriend, but I want to keep hooking up with her. And by the way, hooking up, I really, really, really hate this term. I just think it's so vague because it can mean anything from, we kissed a little bit to, we had anal sex. And I just think that you really, need more precise language to know what this means. Because if he said I've been hooking up with her for 3 months and it meant he'd been making out with her, that's totally different than if he's like, I've been hooking up with her and it means that they've been going to sex parties together. Yeah. Should I show my jealousy? She doesn't know that I know the guy's messaging her. Her boyfriend is a really jealous, controlling type, which I think is why she's hooking up with me. Hooking up. How do I not get replaced by my coworker? The biggest thing that I'm looking for is your opinion on the topic of jealousy. It seems to me that Asian women frequently get and stay in relationships with men who show overt jealousy. It doesn't seem to be as frowned upon as it is in the West. Do you think that it would be wise to occasionally show jealousy in your relationships with women, even if the relationship is a casual friend with benefits relationship? All right. So let's talk about jealousy.
Yeah. Good or bad? I mean, jealousy's been awesome for me. Like in the sense, like in the West, I don't know. They love jealousy in the West. I don't know what he thinks that it's bigger in Asia. It's big everywhere.
Oh, really?
Well, what do you mean by they love?
I mean, I think he's saying that when you show jealousy, it sort of makes you look like a weak person.
Oh, right.
That seems to be what he's implying.
Sure, but I mean,
and so
like,
you have to play like you don't care.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't have any experience with this because I've only dated one Western girl, so I don't really know.
Oh, right.
About this, but I mean, if you look at like a lot of what Western, dating coaches and pickup instructors teach, it's always act like you don't care, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you disagree with that?
I would say okay. Well, I would say this. So before, like at age 19, 20, I had a girlfriend, super jealous, like to the point that I even got counseling, and I brought it up. I'm like, I'm really jealous, like painfully jealous. And so there's obviously like there's reasons for people that when they get really jealous, right? But it had no problems in the relationship because it was a huge emotional spike because I would get super upset, and to her it was like, oh my God, Sean loves me so much, and he's so upset when I talk to someone. He cares for me, he yearns for me so much. So for that relationship and a lot of other relationships, even ones that I had in Korea, I'd be super jealous. Even like if they were out, like where were you? Blah 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 blah. But I mean, like Korean girls are used to this.
So you don't think that there's a difference between the West and Asia?
Oh, there is a difference. But I'm saying though, like it's still the jealousy. As far as I know, like one thing that stayed the same is jealousy works for both girls in both countries. Now, this is before I took the boot camp. So the boot camp, I'm like, this is stupid. I'm not doing this anymore, right? But I still now, what do I use now? Fake jealousy. So I still see that there was like an emotional stream, but I'll never do it to the point where it's like I stress because what it was is I had unhealthy relationships. The girls aren't going anywhere. They love that you're super jealous, and then all of a sudden you're okay, and you're just happy because she makes you feel better again. Just total roller coaster.
So is this jealousy only work when you were in a relationship with the girl?
Yeah, it works better when you're in dating them
in the West, right? So before
and in Asia too.
Boyfriend, girlfriend. Let's separate Asia. We'll talk about Asia in a moment.
Okay, sure.
But in the West, would you say that if you're jealous about a girl before she's your girlfriend, that also works?
Probably will. Oh no! It's got to be once you're in the relationship.
Okay, so I think that. So explain about that.
Yeah, so I think if you're going for hot girls, I don't know who you're going for, but if you're going for girls that are hot, I hope so. They have options. So if you bring some negative energy in, they don't need that. They'll go somewhere where they can get positive energy from someone else. If this is a girl that doesn't have as many options, she might just put up with it.
Okay, so this is before, but in the relationship, you think it works both in the West and in terms of keeping the girl engaged. It may not be a great relationship dynamic. Okay, so here's the next question. You're saying it's not a great relationship dynamic in the West.
It's really not good anywhere. It's negative, but I'm just saying that it'll definitely, if you want to keep the girl around, it's definitely a strategy.
So would you use fake jealousy in the West now?
Oh, I would never go to the West. If I go to the West, I'd fake jealousy. West. I know. I'd still get a little jealous sometimes, and sometimes I'd still let a little bit of it out. I'll still let them see a little bit of it out, and because one of the reasons is like I had this one friend. He had a really hot girl. And she was like, he never cares. I go out all the time. He's never jealous. And some girls will actually try to get you jealous, right? They want that. So when I see a girl fishing for that, I'll give her a little bit of my jealousy.
Okay.
But I won't actually let it cause me any emotional.
Right.
At this point, right? After learning actual things. Yeah, that's sure.
Okay. What about?
Well, I think that there's two different discussions here, right? So I think that one is like, oh, well, does acting jealous get you results sometimes? And it does. I mean, it's one way that you can get a reaction, and sometimes that's the reaction you want. I really don't like using that tactic because I think that if I have ever acted like that in the past, it's a really bad feeling for me. Like it feels like I need to wash my hands or something. Like I don't like acting like that. So I just like I don't want to do it. It just kind of feels gross. But I think also that a lot of guys do feel jealous about their relationships and stuff. And I think this is the other discussion is how much jealousy is normal to feel and should how do you deal with it, right? Like this guy who has this question. He's jealous, and that because jealousy basically, it stems from some sort of fear, and in this guy's case, it stems from the fear of being replaced. And I think that's most jealousy is about the fear of being replaced. Yeah, and I think that the best way to deal with that, the best coping strategy is like make yourself someone who's harder to replace. And there's a whole chapter on this in the 48 Laws of Power. Do you remember this one?
What's the name of the chapter?
I can't remember, but they talk about the illustrative story is that there was a guy who defended some town in the Middle Ages, and he was a hero to these townspeople. And so they kind of elevated him to this like godlike sort of status. And then what they ended up doing is instead of just keeping him around, they sacrificed him as like an offering, right? So ultimately, this guy had, even though he was like this mythical hero to these people, he didn't make himself irreplaceable. So they thought, well, we can get another one. So they just sacrificed him. And so sort of he had elevated his status, right? But he wasn't irreplaceable. So I always think about that. I always think about that chapter as like, well, can a girl or can anyone replace me? And if they can, then I probably need to change things. And if I start feeling jealous, I'm like, well, what am I doing wrong? And what can I do better to make myself more difficult to replace? Because then that solves the issue of you feeling jealous. Because you can't, at the end of the day, a girl's not your dog. I mean, you can't tell her to not see other guys. You can't tell her to choose you all the time. Right, but there are things you can do to make it less likely that she would choose someone else.
And even if she was your dog, she could just piss on your bed.
Yeah, that's true. You don't have much power there. So yeah.
That's funny.
Okay, so what I think about jealousy, first of all, is that once again, I don't have experience with it with girls in the West. I only know that in the pickup world they sort of say it's not good.
Sure.
But I feel like in Asia, when you show jealousy with girls, either before you're with them or while you're dating them, it's an indicator to them that you actually really care. I think in general it's a show of caring. But in the West, I think that caring is like it makes you look bad, right? They think you're weak if you care. It's like it's as if it means you don't have other options. So that's why you're really jealous about them. And they think that if you don't have other options, then you must not be very good.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas in Asia, I think it means, okay, great, this is a guy who's going to be there for me and he's going to be reliable. So the jealousy is good. And, we were, over the weekend, we were hanging out with those three girls, and that one, Tina, was talking about how, her boyfriend, calls her up and is like, where are you? And she has to make sure that she's at home. Yeah. And then he goes to the club with his friends.
I do that all the time. Yeah. I learned how to say in Korean 2 things, 지금 뭐해 and 누구랑 있어. What are you doing now? Who are you with? On the phone.
So, and in Korea, it's very common for guys to make girls send them pictures of where they are and who they're with and what they're doing and all this stuff. So I feel like in Korea, in Asia in general, jealousy plays that role of showing that you care. Now, I also think that, as you were saying, that you want to be someone who can't be easily replaced. So I also feel that way. We were having this discussion over dinner the other day, right? Yeah. And the discussion was that really, essentially, most guys, what they try and do is they say, okay, I'm going to wall this girl off from the rest of the world, and then I don't have to be jealous, and she's not going to leave me.
Right.
And so how did this discussion start?
Oh, so we were talking about the same sort of thing. Is what kind of strategies you can use to make it more likely that girls will continue to choose you, sort of, and so that it's basically trying to minimize the chance that you'll be replaced. I mean,
before we move on to that, I would say no matter who you are and no matter what you obtain, everyone's replaceable. You're replaceable because you can't have every single thing. She can always find something else in another guy, right? That's just a fact. Now, of course, you can decrease the levels, but you're never going to get to status.
Right, that's what I'm saying, though.
I know, I'm just
trying to reduce the levels.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just saying, for the point of, I think when you get jealous, that emotion is going to come. It's not a terrible emotion. It's not a terrible emotion, but it's like, what do you do with it? So now I don't tell girls anymore that I'm jealous. I tell my buddies, hey, I feel really jealous. Should I? Is this stupid? I let them put it down, and then that gets rid of the emotion.
I don't know. I kind of think that jealousy is it's a poor emotion to have. Yeah. And I kind of I want to not have that emotion ever. So I don't know. I mean, maybe this is because the way I feel about jealousy is that it's sort of something that's created by culture, and it's something that's very, very irrational. So having that emotion might make you do things that you don't want to do.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I think it's just like fear or jealousy. I mean, I don't want those emotions, but they're going to come up from time to time.
Oh yeah, but I think you can kind of reduce them. I really do.
For sure.
Reduce them. I mean, even to the point of not having them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So in terms of jealousy, for me, I pretty much I don't feel jealousy about girls who are seeing me.
Yeah.
I only feel jealous about girls who are not seeing me, right? Because I know they're probably seeing somebody else, and that means not only if they're not seeing me, it means that there's somebody else who offers things to them that they like. And meanwhile, I essentially offer nothing. And that's really disturbing. But if they're seeing me, even if it's like once a month, I'm still like, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm killing it. Right? Because, she's coming to me because I have something that she wants. So I'm really happy about that. Now, we were over the weekend or over dinner. That was on Sunday, maybe.
Yeah.
What we were discussing is how instead of trying to wall a girl off from the rest of the world so that she isn't jealous, so that I'm not jealous and so that she doesn't have the opportunity. I sort of feel the reverse. I'm like, okay, well, let her go to the club and meet lots of guys, and she can meet all these guys, and then if she still wants to see me, then for me, I feel even more secure.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I'm sort of like if she doesn't have the opportunity to meet other people, then the minute I drop my guard, she's gonna meet another guy and go, "Oh my God, how did I not know that this was out there all this time?" It's like if a girl's been like living in Kansas and then she goes to New York, she's like, "This is amazing," So I feel like it's like that. Whereas if I'm sort of like always like, yeah, go out there, see what's out there. And then, when she's constantly choosing me over and over again, and she's actively making that choice because she's not choosing these other guys.
Yeah, that's good.
Then that's what makes me feel really secure. Because I'm just like, okay, it's been, 3 years or whatever. And even after all 3 years of other dudes trying to bang her, and maybe her going on dates with other guys, she still is like, I want to see Martin again. So, oh, by the way, that's my real name.
That other guy, Martin. So I one question. This is kind of a little bit going off topic, but what about girls who want to be exclusive with you, right? And they want that like sort of contract. How do you try to encourage them to continue to go out there and experience other people, other guys or like other options?
Oh yeah, this is actually an interesting discussion because apparently you guys were talking about
this
the other day.
Yeah.
So I think that. Okay, so first of all, I think everybody likes the idea of exclusivity, right? I mean, I don't think, I really hope my girl is out banging some other dude right now because I'm busy. It's
exactly.
Not like that. I mean, obviously, I think it's great if this girl is shutting other guys down on the regular basis. That makes me really happy. I like the idea that she doesn't want to have sex with other guys. Right? Yeah. There's no doubt about that. And they feel the same way. They love the idea that I'm not having sex with other women. Or the idea, they love the idea. Or obviously they want the reality that I'm not having sex with other women. And I just think that's just natural to feel that way in our society, right? Yeah. I don't know if that. I mean, you're reading Sex Before Dawn, and it implies some things very differently, and maybe we'll do a section about that book at some point.
Yeah.
But Sex Before Dawn, highly recommended.
Sex at Dawn.
Oh, Sex at Dawn.
Yeah,
sorry, Sex at Dawn, highly recommended. Reading. It's just really a totally different take on evolutionary psychology from what you heard from most other well-known books. But anyway, so I think everybody likes the idea because it makes us feel really special. To be like if your mom was like, I decided not to have any other kids because I loved you so much. I didn't want anybody else to get in the way. Yeah. Right? Sure. I mean, everyone wants more attention. No one thinks, you know what? I get so much attention in my life every day. People care about me too much. I wish there was more love for everyone else. I mean, right? Yeah. Everyone thinks that they are underappreciated and that they deserve more attention and that their talents are underappreciated and all these sorts of things. So everybody wants more attention. And so with the girls that I'm with girls that I'm seeing who, they obviously want me to be exclusive with them. But I guess the way that I look at it is that is not necessarily that promises are not what don't make a relationship stable. What makes a relationship stable is stable emotions. And so I think that having the emotional stability is more important than making promises. Because, you could say, okay, I'll never sleep with anybody ever, besides you. But if she's not emotionally fulfilling you and probably also sexually fulfilling you, then you're going to break that promise, most likely. Or you're going to be unhappy, and it's going to create a lot of negative dynamics in the relationship.
Or even if she is fulfilling those things now, you just don't know what you'll feel in the future.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult. I mean, I think making promises in relationships is a very, very kind of it's sort of an inherently unstable thing to do.
Yeah.
Because you just never. I mean, you never know, and the longer you let those promises go on, the longer you're building this sort of structure where the structure of like expectations. So that when you do break them at the 10 years down the line, if it's been going on that long, it's a real mess.
Yeah.
And it's really not pleasant to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you were talking about your buddy. I don't know if this is related, but you were talking about your buddy who just got divorced a second time.
Yeah, no, I think those are all good points. Yeah, those are things that people don't think a lot in society, and definitely should be more and more conversation on those topics.
Yeah. I think I wanted to maybe say something else about this, which is, so about the emotional stability, I think that really it's about focusing on meeting that person's, or meeting one another's emotional needs. And it's sort of, if that's the case, then, then you're less inclined to want to go elsewhere. Now, there may be circumstances that just don't make it possible. And, I sort of feel like if it's not possible, I don't think that, for me to, let's say, to meet a woman I'm dating, if it's not possible for me to meet her emotional needs, either because I just legitimately can't, or maybe because I don't want to, I don't think that means that she should necessarily have to, suffer because of that. So, I don't... So really and theoretically, if a girl is meeting me as often as I want us to meet, then when we're not together, what she's doing is kind of irrelevant. Now, in our society, it tends to be, well, if she's really busy because of work, that's okay. But if she's really busy because she's dating somebody else, then that's not okay, right? So one of these is okay and one of these isn't. And so if it's because of work, then I'm just supposed to grin and bear it and just be like, oh, I'll be okay. But if it's because she's, hanging out with another guy, then I can be angry about it. But really, in both cases, my needs aren't being met to the level that I want them to be. And so to me, it doesn't matter whether it's work or whether it's because of somebody else. And it's interesting because when you're dealing with children, they don't understand this difference.
Right, yeah.
And so they don't understand this difference, and it's like, oh, you don't understand, mommy has to work, and they're like, why aren't you around more? But then when we're mature, suddenly we're supposed to
separate it out. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But I think that, that's, to me, I think that, there's no difference, really. My needs aren't being met at the level I want them to be met, and it doesn't really, you're choosing to not meet them because you think something else is important. And, you can think that, but that doesn't necessarily make me feel better. And, I think that, but whatever, and the other person can sort of choose to do whatever they want. And you just have to either decide, okay, I'm okay with that, or I'm not okay with that. And if you're not okay with that, then you have options. You can say, well, this isn't the person I want to be with. Like girls who date, maybe like bankers or lawyers or other kind of workaholics. It's like, well, if you're not happy, then you don't have to be with this guy. And you don't have to be understanding that he has to work because he's still making that decision. And people are not trapped in the way that we sort of think that they are because society says that work is important.
Yeah. And one more, I'm just curious to get input on this because we were having this discussion a few nights ago where we were talking about how, they're, having monogamous relationships, like exclusive relationships, is an option for a lot of people. And for a lot of people, that works well for them. And so I'm wondering, what your thoughts are about structuring those sort of relationships. Because we talked about this.
I don't understand.
Okay, well, how would you restructure a monogamous relationship so that it's pretty stable or that it stays sort of stable?
Yeah, I don't know. That's something I can't even speak on. I was just observing.
Oh, okay.
That's something I wouldn't be at this point. I wouldn't be able to speak on it.
Observing and well, do you want to talk about that or not really?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm too. It's too. It's too deep, and I'm just getting my feet wet in that, so I wouldn't even want to speep to it at this point. Yeah.
Okay, well, we can say that for another time.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really interesting conversation because I think a lot of guys who get into pickup, they don't want to be managing a lot of girls all the time. A lot of people do they're looking for someone to get married to. or they're looking to someone to have like a stable relationship with. And I think that there's important ways to structure that, and that's a long discussion, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's a very important discussion because not everyone is. There are people listening to this right now probably like, oh, well, I don't want my girl to be with other guys, or I do want a stable like exclusive relationship. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, but speaking to that, I think one of the important things to remember is that if someone is having a relationship with you, that's a choice that they're making, and you're not obligated to them. Unless you have, made some kind of promise. You're not obligated to them, and they can decide that they're not happy, and then they can leave if they want to. And I think that, there's this, and I think that's really important for people to understand. I think that the idea that we have oftentimes is that, well, first of all, we have this idea that guys don't put in as much into the relationship as women do, which is really just blatantly not true.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. So we have this idea. So if the woman is unhappy, then it must automatically be the guy's fault. And we never say, well, maybe she didn't really look at what this guy was offering, or maybe she did and she thought she'd be okay with it, but now that she's in a relationship with him, she realized she's not. And instead of going, hey, you know what? I don't think this guy can give me what I want. She's bringing in a lot of negativity in the relationship, trying to make him give her what she wants. And so I think, understanding that people have choices and that you're not obligated to give someone else what they want just because they want it is really important for managing your relationships, whether with one person or with multiple people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's good.
All right.
We're over an hour now. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's cut it now and take a break.
All right. Thanks, guys, and see you next time.
See ya.
Later.